Spider's back! Probably wonder where I've been. Spider, Spider, here comes Spider, CFL Red Zone roll. We're going to talk about the last night's CFL 2024, CFL Canadian Draft. I'm going to talk about that in depth quite a bit. I watched it, and you probably wonder where I've been, but I've had a few health issues. I had to go to emergency last week. I thought I was going to have a heart attack or a stroke or something, and I have a bad case of fibromyalgia and osteoarthritis, and so that's a bad combination, and my trigger points aren't very good, you know, my trigger points with fibromyalgia, right here, all the pain here, also my forehead, in my ears, two balls back there, in my jaws. So I had a severe attack. I thought I was going to die, actually. So I went into emergency. I went into the doctor. He said, you're having a stroke or you're going to have a heart attack. So they rushed me to emergency. And anyway, they told I had to go in right away. Dropped everything. So life-threatening. I was really scared, to tell you the truth. Anyway, so what happened, like my blood pressure has been high lately. So just to sum this up, I don't want to talk a lot about this because it's a real downer. But my sugar level was okay. When I get in, my blood pressure, I don't think it was perfect, but it wasn't like to a point I was going to have a heart attack or stroke. But then if you have cholesterol problems and you're diabetic, but my blood sugar tested out okay, I was lucky, 6.5 I think. So they said I'm not diabetic, and I didn't have a stroke because my doctor actually said I was in the midst of having a stroke. Actually, I was in the process, so I had to move quickly. So to make a long story short, it was a trigeminal neuralgia. That's what it was. That's what they diagnosed. What happened to me? That big word, and that's pretty scary stuff. It's a very rare case, but I have it. And so I had to get really sedated on drugs, like heavy drugs, and rest and hope for the best. And here I am. That was the beginning of last week, and here I am now, a week later or so. I even lost time. I don't know. Like I tell you, I've been so numb and so drugged out of it on drugs and medication so I could just, and rest to deal with the pain. And the nerve that comes across there, that's the trigeminal nerve. It's just pounding, pulsating, my forehead just pulsating, and I was all numb. My hands were numb, my face were numb. It was really, really scary. But here I am, and I'm back. And I probably don't look so good because I'm still not over it. It's been over a week now or so. I've lost time, really. I've lost time. It might have been 2 weeks. I'm telling you, I've been so drugged out of it that seriously, I've lost time. Seriously, anyway, I've talked 3.5 minutes, well, almost 4 minutes about that. I guess everybody's been watching hockey lately, so that's what I'm doing, and trying to eat well. And, food can bring this on, and any amount of alcohol or anything. But I always have had fibromyalgia since I've been 24 years old. I'm going to have the worst case of, and I've had shutdowns before, and I went into a coma once, a mini coma with it, and they had to bring in the ambulance and take me out in a stretcher. They thought I was over. I thought I was over too. So, and it was really weird. I was diagnosed with this really weird, like I don't even know how to pronounce it, condition. Now this one, so I had to start. Tell you, it's a wake-up call. I had to start being more healthy and look after myself. Well, I won't be around here because you're alive 1 second and you're dead the next, okay? And you're dead forever. I mean, as far as a human being, we get one shot on this planet, and I think we have to start looking after ourselves, especially as you get older. Now, as a senior, you really have to start looking after yourself more. Try to live out the remaining of your life the best way you can, because it's all downhill, you know, when you're aging. So the only way you can stay alive is like with my condition, try to control it and try to eat well, sleep well, rest well, keep your mind active, keep moving, and stay away from, in my case, my 5 month foods that trigger it, or any amount of alcohol. I don't drink very much, but I like a cold beer and like a glass of wine, but it can trigger it. And our weather's been so brutal, the barometric pressure been so bad. Our weather here has been just awful. Cold, rainy, damp, wind storms like you wouldn't believe. We're famous for that now. Halifax is a windy city. And the dampness and everything, so that just triggered it too, my fibromyalgia. So that's what I ended up having, a severe attack, which caused me now to have what they call trigeminal neuralgia. Trigeminal neuralgia. I think that's how you pronounce it. Trigeminal neuralgia. That's it. It's a tongue twister. Anyway, enough of that. It's 6 minutes now. My God, you'd be feeling sorry for me. Anyway, I don't ask for subscribers. I never had. I remember when I first started, I was getting 500 views. I was just blown away. But I never asked people to subscribe. So please do. Just click on it. I don't know even how it works, but subscribe. I like, you know, I've never asked, but I'd love to have more subscribers. I don't have very many, but I'd love to have more. And thank you. There was a gentleman sent me an email. I thank him for subscribing, and thanks so much. So anyway, let's get into the session. Sorry for the sob story, but here I am, Spider-Man, which everybody called me with a martini Y, with shortened to Spider, my nickname, because my last name is SPYDER. So that's how, when I used to play sports, and same with my son, they called him, you know, SPYDER, when he played with Sidney Crosby hockey. But anyway, so here we go. Okay, CFL 2024 Draft. To me, it's ridiculous. It's almost embarrassing. I'm sorry, and I don't want to start off like May. I got a birthday coming up actually, so I don't want to start off early May being negative. But okay, so there's a big difference between negative or negativity and facts. Okay. I know you got to be more positive, negative. It's healthy for you actually. But let's talk about the facts here. Randy Ambrosie stands up there, okay? And I'm going to try to be as nice as I can to him, but he's part of the problem. He's a guaranteed Canadian old lineman. That's how he got into the CFL. That's how all these players are getting into the CFL. Now, some of them deserve to go in be in the CFL and make this. If I own a CFL franchise, I'd want Canadians if they were good enough, only if they were good enough, because like the Canadian Players Association now is just, it's unbelievable what they're doing. They went to the Trudeau liberal, you know, corrupt government, and now they belong to this this labor group with the Fed, with Trudeau, right, and his policies and everything, and so they can screw the CFL more, and like the Canadian Players Association, made up of mostly Canadian players, 465 of them, they dominate the vote. So here we go again. And by the way, the CFL is a private enterprise. It's just called the Canadian football. It could be called anything, okay? It doesn't give the right for the Canadian players to try to dominate the lid with their Canadian ratio, with their Canadian CFL draft, and then 15 players, 5 got drafted by the NFL, another 5 got signed as free agents, and another 5 or more, probably more than that, are going to minicamp. So why have a CFL draft? You can't even draft the best players. And if the best players, they have, a lot of teams avoid them because they won't show up to camp. They're going to be in the NFL. And with the long, like, seriously, look at the roster. Now, 100 players. I think there's 100 players on this NFL roster. And practice, more practice spots, roster spots. So that means, I mean, they're paying them like quite a bit of money. A lot of money, actually, be on a practice roster in the NFL. So the CFL, this is all hurting the CFL. because you can't have a Canadian ratio because the NFL are taking all the players, and the NFL doesn't have a ratio, and the Canadian players are making it. So if the Canadian players are good enough, the ones that are left, they want to make the CFL, you make it on merit, you make it on talent, and because the CFL owners own the team, the CFL, okay, is a private, it's basically a company, right? It's the problem is with unions, don't attack me about, unions, but it's a union, the Canadian Players Association, and unions try to bleed their employers to death and almost practically put them out of business. And that's what they do. They strike, same with the Canadian Players Association, they threaten to strike. It's the Canadian players, because they control the CFL with the Canadian ratio and the Canadian CFL Draft. And that's what I explained. It's ridiculous. There should be a CFL Open Draft. There should be no such thing as a Canadian CFL Draft. There's no such thing. It should be an open draft. So the CFL teams draft who they want to draft, whether it's a global, and that's another thing. 2 globals, and then one has to take, or 2 if they play a Canadian, American spot. Imagine when there's 8 Canadian starters right now, up from 7. Okay, and half the team or more have to be Canadian. It's unbelievable. The Canadian ratio is destroying the CFL. It's diluting the CFL, watering it down more and more and more every year, and even worse this year, where 15 players or more, or 20 going to the NFL. And so how can you have the cream of the crop? You can't even draft, and if you stupidly draft one, he's never going to show up. It's not like years ago when Mark Cohen, they would come back 1 or 2 years. Now with the practice rosters being so large now in the NFL, and the total roster number of players allowed on a team, and their bonuses and their signing a free agent, all these mini camps, and they scout all the Canadian college teams. I mean, they're taking Canadian college players, and the Canadian players are playing down in the U.S. college, of course, as well. They're being drafted and played. There's now 30, almost. I think there's 30 now total Canadian players playing in the NFL. So, and more to come. And it's so hypocritical because they're controlling the CFL with their union and with the Canadian ratio and with the Canadian CFL Draft. And they want 1-year contracts. So they want to go to the NFL more than American players, because they control the CFL with their union. The Canadian players, 465 of them, that make up the majority of the vote, and their Canadian ratio. Okay, so they demand more money because they're forced to play 8 starters, and they're forced to have half or more of a CFL team Canadian. This is a scam. It's just unbelievable what's going on, and it's politics, and Randy Ambrosie's the ringleader, because he was one of them. He actually belonged to the Canadian Players Association and took the CFL to court when they wanted to get rid of the Canadian ratio. Wouldn't you, as a professional league, why would you want a ratio? No other. They can say what they want about premier soccer teams and so forth, but case in point, MLS soccer, they don't force Canadian players, soccer players. I think there's a roster ratio of only 3, but they're not forced to start them. It's unbelievable what's going on. You can imagine the NHL that had a Canadian player ratio, that only half the team had to be Canadian, or they could recruit the best players. This is what's going on in the CFL. Or the Jays, it had to be half Canadian. They couldn't even be competitive. And here's the problem. The CFL as a league overall, playing their unique style of football, which is very important because it's 3 down, and it would be a lot better with my CFL red zone rule, way better, and about a million times better than the hash mark rule that Randy Ambrosie came up with. But the thing is, here's the problem. These are all compounding problems. So who's the king leader is Randy Ambrosie, because he was one of them. He took the CFL owners, team owners, to court when they want to get rid of the Canadian ratio, to fight him to keep the Canadian ratio. So you imagine having him as having him, Randy Ambrose, commissioner. Oh no, worse than conflict of interest. It's so political, and they are ruining the CFL. And this Canadian CFL, every year the Canadian CFL draft is getting worse and worse and more embarrassing. It's stupid, and that's why the CFL, all the stadium, you know, you look all the empty seats, and Mark Cohen never would allow this, because Mark Cohen knew this was what would happen. He said one time in a Grey Cup game, I mean, come on, he used to sell out Grey Cup game. He sell out stadiums. The guy was an amazing businessman and a marketer. And he said that he would never go to one-year contracts. He said he wanted 3-year commitment contracts, not 2. And he said, right on TV in a Grey Cup interview, he said that if an American player can't give me 2 years, I don't want him. Stay down in the States. He says, I'll find American players that will give me a 2-year guaranteed contract. Come on. And by the way, that's the thing. None of the contracts are guaranteed. The quarterbacks can get out of their contracts out because of Randy Ambrose and the Canadian Players Association that he's in bed with, all the Canadian players that make up the Canadian Players Association. And they're the ones that changed, they changed all this for the worse, for their benefit. Okay? So Randy Ambrose, you could stay as commissioner, right? You know, suck up in bed with the Canadian players who dominate the Canadian Players Association. They have a majority, 465 votes. So the American players, they're handcuffed. They got the fans handcuffed. Okay? They got the game handcuffed, right? So our game, our CFL 3-down game, they got it handcuffed. Because the only way for our CFL 3-down game to be the best game it could be is with the best rules and the best players. And my CFL Red Zone rule, it would be historical. It would be the biggest and best rule ever adopted by the CFL. The most entertaining, okay, the most exciting, the most innovative, full of drama. There would never be a rule that's full of drama. Is my rule in the Red Zone, my CFL Red Zone rule. And I'll make our 3-down game a lot better and put a real signature on our 3rd down and give it a real purpose and a meaning. And it would be a more important down in the Red Zone than the NFL 4 downs, which is too many downs. And playing 2-down football in the Red Zone in the CFL, okay, is not enough downs. So ideally, 3 downs. With my CFL Red Zone rule, the way it works, as you know, okay, the way my CFL Red Zone rule works is every time the CFL team's in the Red Zone, if the 3rd downs need it, okay, this is all my presentation on my CFL Red Zone rule Facebook page. 3rd downs need it. CFL team is playing exciting CFL 3-down football. My Spiders CFL Red Zone rule, the score touchdown. And the rule is very, in a nutshell, it's very easy to understand. That's the main component, but there's other major features as well, okay? That if they're stopped and not forced outside the red zone, okay, they still get Spider CFL red zone rule kick from the 42-yard line when you add the 7 to the 35, okay? And they can't fake and go for a touchdown, so it's not 4 downs, okay? All right, and also another big feature defensively. So it's just exciting, my CFL red zone rule, offensively as it is defensively in the red zone. So can you imagine the excitement, the drama in the red zone, not only offensively but defensively? Because on defense, if they force a CFL team on 3rd down outside the red zone on 3rd down, okay, they get rewarded. The defense. You know why? Because a CFL team in offense does not get to kick Spider's CFL red zone rule, okay, kick from the 42-yard line when you add the 7. Okay, so that's it in a nutshell. And man, I did a survey for 4 years, and I worked my CFL red zone rule for 5 years. Okay, and when I did my survey, the biggest complaints about CFL 3-down football were too much kicking, too many 2-and-outs that don't even exist in the NFL. Okay, and the other was the Canadian ratio was a big complaint, And the biggest killer was the two biggest turnoffs and killer in my survey and complaints about a CFL 3-down game and why they don't watch CFL football in our own country, by the way, Canadian, and only watch the NFL. Imagine, in our own country, was 2-down football stops in the red zone resulting in too many 2-down football stops in the red zone resulting in too many boring, predictable, non-eventful, okay, distasteful, easy chip shot field goals in the red zone, okay? That's what they said are the two biggest killers, which, by the way, my CFL red zone rule completely eliminated. My CFL red zone, that's how powerful my CFL red zone rule is. Completely eliminates the two biggest killers and two biggest turnoffs in the red zone in the CFL with my SPYDER CFL red zone rule. Can you imagine how big that would be for a CFL 3-down game? So, I mean, I have done something that I've been working on, and okay, and I'm going to present it. Here we go. And it's done. So what I'm going to do, and this is my SPYDER CFL red zone rule radio blitz, that now with the season starting, I know Jamie 9, that's okay, he knows me, I've been on the show before. He loved my CFL red zone rule, by the way. And that's the first show I'm going to go on, and I'll let you know, because you better play back the podcast of it if you don't hear me. But I'm going to get on there, and the first thing I'm going to say is this, and I know Jamie, and he likes my CFL red zone rule, and I'm going to say, Jamie and CFL fans and football fans around the world, SPYDER CFL red zone rule, I would say SPYDER's proposed CFL red zone rule blows Randy and Brosie's, or the CFL's, hash mark gimmicky rule out of the water, and this is why. Here we go. You ready?
SPYDER here. So listen up, sports and football fans in Canada and around the world. If you want to see no more repetitive, unappealing 2-down football stops in the red zone in the CFL, and no more boring, predictable, distasteful, non-eventful, easy chip shot field goals in the red zone in the CFL, which are the two biggest turnoffs and killers of a CFL 3-down game of football, that will be remarkably completely eliminated with SPYDER's super exciting proposed CFL red zone rule, and will remarkably guarantee an 18% increase of 50 more touchdowns scoring the red zone in the CFL than chant loud in the red zone of the CFL game live. We want SPYDER's CFL red zone rule.
We want SPYDER's CFL red zone rule
that the NFL cannot steal, because it unequivocally would not work with 4-down football, but work naturally like it's tailor-made for CFL 3-down football. That's there every single CFL game, staring the CFL right in the eye, just waiting to be adopted. And when you have a Canadian sports legend like Steve Armitage, who has done 27 Grey Cups, give SPYDER's proposed new CFL red zone rule his stamp of approval, and Rob Vanstone, the Canadian icon sports writer, say after the 2021 CFL season that SPYDER, the CFL, couldn't have written a better script to prove why your SPYDER CFL red zone rule should be made part of our CFL 3-down game of football. And Farhan Laji, a popular TSN CFL sports reporter and CFL broadcaster, say that if it came to a vote, that he would vote to have my SPYDER CFL red zone rule adopted by the CFL. Then you know you have something really big. So, CFL fans, instead of booing loud when your home CFL team on offense refuses to go for 3rd down in the red zone to score a touchdown in the CFL, unless they are on the 1-yard line, chant loud in the red zone in the CFL game live. We want SPYDER's CFL red zone rule. We want SPYDER's CFL red zone rule. That's a real game changer and won't be the most innovative and the biggest new CFL rule ever adopted by the CFL. That's full of drama, and it will make CFL 3-down football a lot more entertaining and a lot more exciting brand of CFL 3-down football to watch and be part of. And that will pack all CFL stadiums and make them soar and roar throughout the CFL with SPYDER's super exciting CFL red zone rule.
I had worked hard on that. Now what I'm going to do is I have on my computer, I have an amplifier system, so I'm going to put it through that with a mic. So it's going to be way. I hope you could hear that. Okay. I could have set that up. My Banshee battery's gone. I would have got some magnification off that. I'm sorry, amplification. with an A. And you would have heard it a lot better, how it would sound. Well, it would, that banji sound is like tinny, but I got some good tonality in my system over there, like the mid-range bass and treble. I can tune it right in, and it's good, really punchy. And I got it set up, and that's how I recorded it, but I can't play it back unless I'm on my computer system through my amplifier system that I have hooked up. But that's what they're going to hear over the radio, the high end. It really reproduces it like big league, like a high quality recording when I amplify it, okay, and go direct through the mic, through my amplifier speaker system on my computer, and I'll have the phone right up to it, the main speaker. Just back it off that it doesn't overpower it, and adjust the volume properly, which I've tried all this out, and it works perfectly. And someone on the other end listening, so I got it all organized. It's ready to go. So I'm just waiting. There'll be a surprise coming at the end of May and early June that I won't tell you about. That there's be something I'm doing that pretty exciting that I'll let you know about. That I'll be back on set to tell you about. And by the way, the next session coming up is all on what's going on with the Halifax Wanderers. And the Halifax Wanderers, Derek Martin went in his Mickey Mouse little prefabricated modular CPL soccer stadium for $40 million, and half of that's just for the turf and infrastructure. Artificial turf. Imagine his son's going to play football on it, but it's not big enough for a CFL venue there, stadium there. So I'm going to get into that. There's a video on the show of him. He's really sounding really desperate, and what's going on with the city here in relation to a stadium and with the Wanderers, and what's going on with the CFL. Okay, with St. Mary's. Okay, I got some information for you coming up very soon in the next session. So see you back to back. Session 2 coming up. Take care. Spider, here comes Spider.